Hello, everybody. I hope that you are doing well. So, welcome to Michelle's Inspiration Hour, and I hope that each episode brings you hope, motivation, and most of all, inspiration. So, I'm going to say this: stop looking for heroes and be one. Describes our next guest. So, Dave Albin is the number one firewalk instructor in America. Firewalking is 1,000-year-old rite of passage ritual where you literally walk across hot, burning coals. Having worked for Tony Robbins for 19 plus years and starting Firewalk Productions in 2014, Dave has firewalked hundreds of thousands of people. He and Tony Robbins set a world record in London in 2005, walking over 12,300 people. His success has a scary and violent past, so he has an inspiration story to tell. On June 8th, 1988, he almost ended his life due to excruciating pain from both drug and alcohol addiction. So I love this. In 2023 will mark his 35 years of sobriety. So let's bring him on and hear about all of his inspiration and see how he gets through this firewalking. I love it. Hello.
Hi,
How are
Michelle.
you?
I'm fabulous. Thanks for
Oh,
having me on your show. I'm really excited to be here. It's great.
absolutely. I am really excited to hear all about this firewalking. I mean, I have heard about it, but not really ever talked about
Yeah,
it. So let's
right.
start from the very beginning. How did you find yourself
Sure.
working with Tony Robbins?
So my first interaction with Tony is right as I got sober. So in June, as you read there, on June 8th of 1988, when I woke up that morning, I was grossly addicted to alcohol and cocaine and heroin and chocolate chip cookies. I
Yeah.
throw that in there. But that morning, here's what was different. I was like, I'd hit threshold. I can't do this
Mhm.
anymore. I was in so much pain,
Right.
Michelle. The physical, the emotional. I just hurt all over. It's very,
Mhm.
very painful. And so the only thing I thought that would help end it was put a bullet in
Mhm.
my head. And I wasn't struggling with anything of like, is there heaven or hell or
Right.
not? The pain has to stop. I can't do this
Mhm.
anymore. And I was married to a woman at the time who had 3 kids, and they were my stepkids. And I remember thinking, you know what, you selfish jerk, if you pull that trigger, your life's over. You don't suffer anymore, but they
Right.
do. And that's wrong. You can't do that
Mhm.
to them. And we
Right.
know, right? When someone kills himself, they kill everybody around them. So find a reason to live, and I did. And I found another option. And it dawned on me, well, why don't you call Alcoholics Anonymous? And what's interesting about that, Michelle, is I didn't know who AA was. I had no references at all. I didn't know anybody that was in AA, never been to AA. And yet there
Mhm.
I was, on the phone calling AA. Well, when I got this person on the phone, I affectionately refer to her as Madge because she talked like this, right? Right. I think she probably smoked 2 packs of Pall Mall non-filters,
Right.
right? And so she was like, and she was all
Mhm.
over me. She was like asking me questions. Are you sure you want to get sober? I'm not going to send anybody to come help you if you're not serious. And bless
Yeah.
her heart.
Yeah.
And I've never met her to this day. That was the only interaction I had with her was on that phone call.
Wow.
But she did. She got enough information. She sent a man to come pick me up. And so I went to 4 meetings that first
Mhm.
day, a 12:30, a 4:30, a 6:30, and an 8:30. And I went home that night and I didn't drink.
Wow.
And the next morning, one of the members called me. He's all enthusiastic. He's like, "Hey, Dave, good morning. How you feeling?" And I'm thinking, how do you think I'm feeling?
Right.
I want to kill somebody. I might start with you, pal.
For asking.
He's like, yeah. I hear you. He's, listen, I know where you live. I'm going to come get you, take you to breakfast, and I'm going to take you to another meeting.
Mhm.
And Michelle, that was
Mhm.
it. That's when I got a really big dose of Alcoholics Anonymous and how it
Wow.
works. Because here's this perfect stranger that was, willing to come get me, take me to breakfast, and cared enough at that level to take me to another meeting. So 2 days turned into a week turned into a month, and I got another chip, 30 days. Then I got one for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and then I got my year chip. Well, along the way, during my recovery, I had insomnia. So I was up late all the time. So I'm up late, 3 o'clock in the morning, back in 1988. And there he is, Mr. Enthusiasm himself, Mr. Gunthy Ranker, a young Tony Robbins is selling his program called Personal Power. And it was $179.
Wow.
And I bought it. My American Express card, they sent it to me. And it came on these little white things called cassette tapes.
If you don't know.
And I'll bet you some of your listeners
know,
go, what's
exactly.
that? What's it? Go to the Smithsonian. They're there. And so I went through it. I went through his program. I did what the man taught me to do, and it worked. And then one of my buddies in AA, he's, because I started making changes. Once I went through the program, I started working out. I started a new business. I was very enthusiastic about going through the programs because I was studying it on a regular basis. And he's like, what's wrong with you? What's going on with you? You're so motivated, And he's like, I go, I'm listening to this guy by the name of Tony Robbins. And he goes, hey, I know who Tony Robbins is. And I said, well, I'm going through his program. So if you want to borrow it, I'll loan it to you. If you promise me you'll go through it. He goes, oh, you better believe I will. So he did.
Wow.
7 years later, 1995, my phone rings. Guess who it is? It's my buddy Dan, who went through the program with me. He goes, hey, man, did you know that Tony Robbins is coming to town? And I said, no, I didn't have a clue. And he goes, yeah, man. He goes, come on. We got to go. You got me into this. Go with me. And I said, well, what's the date? And I said, okay, I can go. I'm available. He goes, fantastic. He goes, I'll call you back. I'm going to go make all the arrangements. I don't know. He calls me an hour later and he goes, done. We pick up the tickets at will call. And here's what they told us to do. Number one, bring snacks because you're going to spend a lot of time in the room. What an understatement that was. He said, drink a lot of water, hydrate, keep yourself really hydrated through the 4-day event. It's a 4-day event, right? UPW, unleash the power within, the Firewalk experience. Well, when he's talking to me about it, I don't know there's a Firewalk. He just said, bring snacks, hydrate, bring a good attitude. I said, Dan, how much was the ticket? He said $700. $700 in 1995? I mean, what's that equate to today? $7 grand? I mean, I don't know. It's a lot of money.
Absolutely.
He goes, well, yeah. He said, and be ready to play full out. I said, Dan, I just spent $700. I'll play full out. Well, he's getting ready to get off the phone. He goes, oh, by the way, I left out the most important part. What's that, Dan? He goes, we're going to be doing a firewalk. And I remember thinking, oh, hell no. Right. You are at it. I'm not saying anything, but I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, no. No. That's a hard no for me, pal. We're not doing that. And I'm saying no to something. And you know what? At that moment, Michelle, I didn't know what a firewalk was. I had no idea. I had no reference at all, but I'm saying no to it. Fear is running my life. Drinking and drugging all those years, fear ran everything. It took more things for me than I could ever imagine. And this was no different. I'm like, nope, not doing that. So, but I'm lying to Dan. I'm like, yeah, sure. Sounds good. Yeah. All right. See you then. Boom. Hung up the phone and went, nope, we're not doing that. That's for the crazy people. I'm not doing it. Well, you get to the event, right? It's the day of the event. Tony takes the stage at 2:00 in the afternoon. And this is on a Friday afternoon. And the next thing I know, it's after midnight. I've been in a room with Tony Robbins for 10 hours. He's prepping you for the firewalk. And so the next thing I know, Tony goes, take your shoes off. And I'm like, oh, no, pal. I see where you're going with that. I'm not doing that. Well, I'm in a room with 3,500 people, and they're all taking their shoes off. And I'm like, no, people, don't fall for it. Stop. Right? But they're taking their shoes off. So now Davey Boy has a dilemma. Do I take my shoes off or not? Because if I don't, everybody's going to know that I'm a coward. Right. And I'm like, oh, well, we can't have that. So I'm like, well, just take your shoes off and fake it. Nobody's going to know. When you get out there, just go hide in the back. Nobody will know. And so that's my strategy. Well, as Tony gets ready to go out there, he gets everybody to start chanting. Right? So it's like, yes, yes, Yeah, they're clapping and chanting. Well, it gets worse. As soon as you get outside, he takes you out in this giant parking lot to be able to do a firewalk for 3,500 people. He's got African drummers.
Oh,
Right?
wow.
So it's now dun 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 dun, and everybody's clapping. Yes, yes. 10 hours in a room with him, and it's like you go outside, you're like, you've got to be kidding me. What a dog and pony show this is, right? Well, when you get out there, there's a giant fire over in the corner, Michelle, and it's probably 30 feet wide and 70 feet long, and it's been burning all day. 10 hours. They probably, and they keep throwing wood on it all day long, all night. Well, at the end, it renders, and you have this giant, huge pile of coals. They're beautiful.
Right.
Well, how they facilitate that logistically is they go and they take a wheelbarrow and they fill it up with coals.
Okay.
And then they bring it in between 2 lanes of sod, of grass. And they call it a fire lane, if you will. So it's 3 feet wide, 18 feet long. Then they just take a shovel, flathead shovel, and they sprinkle those coals on top of that grass, and that's what you walk on.
Gotcha.
Well, I'm not going anywhere near that. I'm hiding in the back, right? I'm just going to chill out. Well, Tony knows how powerful the Firewalk experience is. He researched this. He knows it's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years and been used by all kinds of cultures. The Phoenicians and the people of India and the Indo-Europeans used it before they went into battle. The Polynesians, the Hawaiians, Native American Indians. It's been around for hundreds of years. And he knows it is literally the most powerful experience any human can probably go experience and go through. And so he wants to make sure to get you through it so the paradigm shift will happen. So he knows where all the cowards are. We're hiding in the back. Well, he trains people to come find you.
Oh.
And so the next thing you know, I'm back there by myself, and here comes this guy. And he locks eyes with me. And he won't take his eyes off me. He's walking right at me. So Tony must teach them or train them, hey, when you make eye contact with those people back there in the back, don't take your eyes off them. And so now he's coming right at me. And he gets about 20 feet from me. And all of a sudden he looks at me with this real funny, puzzled look on his face, kind of twists his head sideways and kind of leans over, excuse me, and he says, "Are you okay?" Well, when we're not okay, what do we say?
No.
We lie.
Yeah.
I'm great. I'm good. Yeah, I'm fine. No worries. Yeah, move along. Nothing to see here, pal. And all of a sudden he goes, "Oh, great." He says, "So, hey, are you going to walk tonight?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not." Like, didn't you get the memo? Are you kidding? He goes, "Hey, man, that's cool. No problem at all. We don't want you to do anything you don't want to do." And I thought, okay, I like this guy. He's going to get me out of here. And then here's a stranger. I don't know this guy to this day. I have no idea. I'd love to know. Love to thank you, because I wouldn't be here on your podcast with you if I wasn't. And he said to me, "Well, wouldn't you at least like to watch?"
Oh.
And I thought for a second, I went, yeah, that should be fun. Let's go watch these people burn their feet off. Let's do that. And he says, so I'm 100 yards from where they're doing it. Now they've already started at this point. So the people are chanting, right? Yes, yes. And the drums are going, dun, 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 and people are already starting to walk, and you can hear them screaming with exhilaration. There's a fine line between pain and pleasure, right? So it's a dog and pony show unlike anything you've ever experienced.
Yeah.
It is insane. Well, he says, well, look, just get in line because you can't see anything from back here, and eventually you'll get up there close. You'll be able to see it. Okay. All right. So he tricked me a little bit.
Right.
So I fell for it. I took the bait. So now I'm in line.
Yes.
And I'm kind of walking along. The intensity is building and building. All of a sudden, this guy comes up to me and he whispers in my ear. And he says, he knows when you're ready. When he says go, you go. And pew, he just disappeared into the night. I'm like, what was that? Who was that? What's going on? And so now I'm kind of walking along, and all of a sudden I get to a point. I can't see in front of me. I still got hundreds and hundreds of people in front of me. Can't see anything. I can hear it. They're doing it. They're screaming. They're yelling. They're celebrating. But I get to a place I can see at an angle. And Michelle, they're doing it. Every race, every creed, every color, every age. And I'm like, what are they doing?
Mhm.
What's wrong with them? Why would they do this? Metaphorically, what's going on here?
Right.
It's because it's unlike anything you've ever seen or experienced. It is
Mhm.
intense. And now I'm mesmerized. I'm in a
Mhm.
trance. I'm like driving by a car accident and you swear you're not going to look
Oh,
at it,
yeah.
but you stare at it anyway,
Right.
right? And so that's kind of where I
Mhm.
am. So now I can't take my eyes off it. And I'm walking along and boom, guess where I am? The front of the line. And I'm looking down and there's that fire lane, right? It's 3 feet wide, 18 feet long. They sprinkled those
Mhm.
coals on top. They're glowing bright red. There's a wheelbarrow there. You can feel the heat coming on. And I'm staring into the abyss. I think my heart's going to jump out of my chest. I'm scared to death. And there's a trainer standing there.
Mm.
And all of a sudden the trainer goes, eyes up. Like, oh, you idiot. Well, I'm in a room for 10 hours. Guess what Tony teaches you to do? Keep your eyes up. Stare at the celebration end. Don't stare
Oh,
at
I
what you
see.
fear. Look to
Mhm.
the end. And I'm like, so now my eyes are up,
Mhm.
right? And he goes, squeeze your fist and say yes. And I went, yes. And he went, stronger. And I went, yes. Well, he could
Yeah.
tell. I wasn't right. I wasn't in a peak state. I was leaving a lot on
Mhm.
the table. So he screamed at me again, stronger. And I threw my hands in the air and I screamed at the top of
Wow.
my voice. And he goes, go, go, go. Pew. I took off.
Wow.
Well, here's the first thing I learned about firewalking.
Oh.
When you take that first step, oh, you'll take the second, third, fourth, and fifth. I guarantee you. Right? Well, he stages two people at the end of the fire lane and they lock arms to stop you. At that point, Michelle, I'd have walked all the way to Albuquerque. I mean, and all of a sudden they're like, stop, wipe your feet and celebrate. And so now I'm celebrating, I'm wiping my feet, and all of a sudden, it dawns on me, oh my gosh, I've burnt myself really, really bad. And so I look at my foot, my right foot, and it's dirty, but there's no burns. Oh, it's my other foot. I look at my foot, it's dirty, but there's no burns. And so now there I am. I'm looking back. The clothes were bright red. There's no tricks, nothing. I just walked across stoves that were 1,000 degrees, coals that are 1,000 degrees. I didn't burn myself. And I didn't have a clue how I did it. I didn't burn myself and I had no clue how I did it.
Yeah.
Right? You ever
Yes.
done that? Ever done something really cool? Right? And you go, that's right.
Right.
That was me. I did that.
Mhm.
But I had no clue. I just walked on coals that were 1,000 degrees and I have no idea how I did it. So
Mhm.
when you're standing in that area, I'm with a couple of thousand people and everybody's
Oh, yeah.
jumping up and down and they're celebrating. Michelle,
Wow.
it's exhilarating. It's phenomenal. And you're telling yourself, well, hey, if I can
Mhm.
walk on coals that are 1,000 degrees, not burn myself, what else can I do? How many lies have I told myself that I can't do
Absolutely.
something when the fact is I actually can? And so that evening was phenomenal. Well, sometimes people go, hey, did you wash your feet that night when you went to bed? I went, nope. I wanted to make sure I could see it the next day that I'd actually done it. Well, here's where it gets really interesting, though, was the next day, right? This is a 4-day event. The Firewalk's the night of the first day. So now we're coming in for day 2, and we're all standing in the foyer getting ready to go into the venue. And, 3,500 people. And I'm observing them, and I'm watching them, and I'm like, what's going on? Look at these people. Look how they're talking to each other. Look how they're communicating humanistically. They're all laughing and they're crying. They're telling their story. They're hugging. They're talking about the firewalk. I mean, their self-worth, their self-confidence, their self-belief went boom, went through the roof. And so I'm just in awe of that. And that's actually that's really the moment that I fell in love with the entire firewalking process, because I saw how life-changing it would be on a grand scale, thousands of people, and we're all pretty much experiencing the same thing. Well, later on in the event, I met one of Tony's trainers, a guy by the name of Ted Macy. Great guy, him and his wife, Mary. They're both trainers. And so I'm talking and I'm like, man, this must be really awesome
Mm.
to be, in this environment on a regular basis. He goes, oh my gosh. He said, whatever you can do to try to get in here, you ought to do that. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, see all these people over here wearing those black shirts with the pink writing? I'm like, yeah. He goes, they're volunteers. They pay their way to come be here. So when you get home, go call Robbins Research and ask him to send you an application for a volunteer crew application. And who knows, maybe you'll get lucky. And so I went, okay. So I did that. They sent it to me. I filled it out, sent it back. Like 6 weeks later, 7 weeks later, I get a letter in the mail. It says, Dave Albin, congratulations. You've been selected to crew with the Anthony Robbins companies. Next thing I know, there I am, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, at a Tony event as one of the volunteer crew members. Yeah. Well, when you fill out the application, you fill in, all the stuff that you can do. Like I lived on a farm, right? So I knew how to use tools. I knew how to use a log splitter. I knew how to use a hatchet. I knew all that. There's certain pieces of equipment I could operate. And I also had a military and a security background. So they put me on the security team to help take care of Tony's celebrities. And then they also put me on the fire team, both. So I had the best of both worlds. Yeah, And then, again, you have to pay your way. Well, I think I crewed 5 or 6 times, and then they offered me a subcontractor's position. Excuse me. And that's where they actually hire you and bring you in. They pay for your airfare, your hotel. Yeah, right. They give you a per diem, and they give you a little salary, a couple $100. It's not much. But I went from spending $2,000 to not spending $2,000. So for me, it was a grand slam home run, right? Because now they're paying me to be in the environment. I'm like, okay, this works for me. Well, later on, in 2003, we're at Date with Destiny, which doesn't have a firewalk, but I'm there in the security role. And we're at the Atlantis Hotel in the Bahamas, in Nassau. And when I got there, I got a message on my phone. It said, hey, David, come to the office. We want to talk to you. And the next thing I know, they're offering me the captain's position, which meant that I would be the guy that's in charge of all of Tony's firewalks globally. And I said, I can't do it. And they were like, you can't or you won't. Tony doesn't really take the word no very well. Yes, I'm not surprised.
Not surprised.
And so they want to know. And I said, well, I homeschool my kids. And they went, oh, wow. Okay. Well, we understand. Well, what if we paid to have your kids travel with us? Would that make a difference? Well, yeah, of course it would. Wow. So the next thing I know, Michelle, there I am. I'm on the road with Tony Robbins with my family as the fire captain, taking care of all of Tony's firewalks globally. And what a ride that was. I can't even begin to tell you how spectacular that was. Well,
I'm going to show the picture of you helping. I mean, and like another thing that we need to talk about is glass walking. So was this with Tony Robbins as well with the glass record?
No, that was a client. We were seeing where we're the glass walk. That was in Paris. In 2019, we set a world record as far as the biggest glass walk that had ever been done. It was 1,500 people.
Wow.
The other one, the picture underneath that is a firewalk that I did for the Caldwell County Chamber of Commerce. And that's my buddy, Brian Morey. He's head of the chamber there. He's walking. Then the other picture over there is a really special picture for me. We were at a firewalk in Texas. And one of the members, she was in her 3rd trimester. She's pregnant, right? And so she's like 9 months. She was like ready to, give birth any day. And she was there and I walked up to her and I could tell she was very apprehensive. And I said, would you like to walk tonight? She goes, no, I'm way too scared to be walking on those coals being pregnant. I go, I get it. I said, how about I do this? How about I'll hold your hand, you go with me, I'll walk, and you can just walk on the grass next to me. And she said, you do that? I said, absolutely, I do that. That way you'll feel it through me. You'll feel it. The baby will feel it, everything. Right. If you look really close at that picture, you can see she's got a huge, huge smile on her face. So all of those pictures you see there is after I left Tony and I retired from Tony in 2014. And I started my own experiences.
There you go.
Well, and that's what happened. 2014, I'm driving down the road and my phone rings and it's this company called Google. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Have you guys
we know Google.
Yeah. So they're like, hey, are you the Dave Albin that does the firewalks for Tony Robbins? I'm like, yeah. Why? What's up? well, we'd like to talk to you about hiring you, unless, of course, you're under some non-compete or contractual obligation. Like, nope, homeboy's a free agent. What you got going on? And so they told us they had this graduation coming up, 148 of their executives, and would I be available? And I said, well, when do you want to do it? And they said, well, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, well, I can't do a firewalk in the middle of the day, safety reasons. However, we could do a glass walk. They said, a glass walk? Ooh, that sounds scary. Tell us about that. And so I did. And that's what we did for Google.
Oh, yes. Now, let me ask you, what's okay? I know the difference between glass walking and the fire, but why did somebody decide to do both? You know what I'm saying? Was the glass walking as traditional as like what the firewalking in, or is it something new?
Okay. And what we did is we came up with the glass walk experience because firewalking isn't always logistically possible. Like in that moment with Google, I can't do a firewalk in the middle of the day. I got to do it at night. It's a safety issue. I have to be able to see the color of the calls. So when I said, hey, that's when I said, hey, we could do a glass walk. And they went, oh, cool. Tell us about that. In fact, when I met with Google the night before, they're like, hey, Dave, can we ask you a question? And I'm like, yeah. They said, well, before we bring you on stage, can we show a video? And I said, what's the video? And they said, there's a scene in Die Hard where Bruce Willis has to run across the broken glass and his feet are all bloody. Can we show that? And I said, absolutely. You're my kind of people, for sure. He said, well, there's one other thing. There's a song by Annie Lennox that's called Walking on Broken Glass. And I said, yeah, play it. Sure. Right. So I actually did 2 events for Google. But you know what's interesting, Michelle? That's where it was at the Google event, the first one. I was sitting at a table at lunch and I was talking to a couple of the execs. And one of the gals, she said, hey, Dave, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but you might want to think about starting your own business because there will be a huge marketplace for you. You're the guy that's out there. This is an incredible paradigm shift experience. So as far as corporate team building, you're the guy. Every CEO out there is going to want to hire you and bring you into their organization to create a powerful paradigm shift experience like this. And I was like, okay, well, cool. Thanks for the information. And that's when the light bulb went off. I went, listen, if Google's telling you ought to start your own team building company, maybe you should listen to them. And that's when Firewalk Production was born.
Oh, that is an incredible story. And you are so good at telling it. And I mean, just how far you have come and the inspiration that you have behind all of your stories. You can tell you're passionate about what you do. And I know it helps lots of people. What is one thing that you can tell somebody that needs to be inspired?
Well, I would caution them in terms of what they tell themselves. Everything that happens in our life, we create a story. Viktor Frankl taught us that in Man's Search for Meaning, and him being in Auschwitz. Because he took everything from him, right? They killed his family in front of him. They made him stand naked in the yard with everybody else. It was cold, freezing. They take everything from you, your dignity, all of it. You know what they can't take from you? Is your choice to choose. You choose your attitude. No one else chooses that for you. So choose well. And you know what I tell people all the time? You want to change your life? Change your story. Because most people make excuses. I'm too young. I'm too old. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have the experience. I don't have the resources, blah, blah, blah. One of the things I say, don't ever say you don't have time. That's not true. That's a lie. We have time for anything we're committed to, period. Because if you're sitting and you're sitting at your office and you're like a home office, this actually happened to me. My son came in one day and said, hey, Dad, can we go throw the ball around? And I said, yeah, Davey, I'll do that, but let me finish what I'm doing here. And then I didn't do it. And then the next day he came and asked me again. I said the same thing. Let me finish. He said, Dad, you said that yesterday. And it crushed me. And so there's my 9-year-old son taught me a huge lesson. What's more important? Because here's the thing. Many of us achieve. We achieve. Some of us achieve at a very high level. But if it's not balanced with fulfillment, in my opinion, it's total failure. Because you know what? I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. I speak at the Entrepreneur Organization, EO, which is, they've got 198 chapters globally, and they're all entrepreneurs. And I talk to them all. I say all the same thing. You are not going to get to the end of your life and say to yourself, wow, you know what? I wish I'd have spent more time making money and less time with my family. That's not going to happen. So you better get that dialed in. And so I kind of believe, the two most important times of anybody's life is the moment you're born and the moment you figure out why. Because, they say that every human has two lives. And they say the second one starts when you realize you have only one. I remember seeing
oh my gosh.
I remember seeing an interview with Tom Hanks. And he's sitting there with a bunch of other actors, Robert De Niro, a couple of others, and that question, what would you go back and tell your young self? He said, you know what? He says, you know how things are going bad. You think like everything's falling apart. You're coming unglued. You think the world's coming to an end. This too shall pass. He said, just wait. He says, by the way, everything great? Everything going really good? Think you got the world by the you-know-what? This too shall pass. Right? So it really boils down to what Frankl said. We decide the meaning we're going to give anything and everything to our lives. Because again, you can take everything away from somebody except their attitude. And so, for me, it's all about creating a magnificent life, right? My life was handed back to me. I'm ready to put a bullet in my head. The next thing I know, I'm in an AA meeting. The next thing I know, I'm learning, the personal development industry and AA at the same time. It was magical because the personal development and AA was coming together at the same time. So it really catapulted me forward. Next thing I know, I'm going to a Firewalk. Next thing I know, I'm like, what? Does this happen? Is this what happens when you walk on hot coals? You're around all these people that you create this incredible bond. That's the beauty. I've been in situations where I'm in an airport and somebody will see me and they'll go, hey, Dave Albin, dude, I firewalked with you back in blah, 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 blah. Man, it's so great to see you.
Oh my gosh.
But see, that happens automatically. Their enthusiasm goes boom, almost identical back to the exact place and time of the Firewalk. And that happens.
It's almost like, it's almost like they're reborn. You know what I'm saying? At the very beginning, you have all that fear, anxiety, and your old self, and then you walk the fire pit, the pathway, and then you're a new person afterwards.
Because the bottom line is that how do you process fear? What's it mean to you?
Right.
Does it face everything and rise, or does it forget everything and run? Again, back to we get to decide.
Right.
Up firewalking kids. You want to transform a kid's life? Let me have them for 2 hours, 3 hours, because I do a board break with them too. I get them to write. I teach them a martial arts move, right? Which they would only be able to do if they went to a martial arts studio. So I get the boards and we buy them from a martial arts studio, and I have them write something on front of the board they want to move towards. I have them write something on back of the board they want to move away. And then if they're in conflict with somebody, I have them write that person's name on the board. In other words, if forgiveness or reconciliation is part of the relationship, write their name on the board. And then what I'm going to do for the vets is I'm going to say, now write anybody's name on the board that you've lost. So then they do that. That creates the rite of passage.
Wow, powerful.
So we'll break the board. We'll take them out. We'll firewalk them. They'll come back and they'll be able to throw their board onto the fire. So it's a super, super, super powerful experience.
That's what exactly I was about to say. It sounds very, very powerful. Well, thank you so much, Dave. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's just awesome. It's my pleasure as well. So you ready for the last question?
I love this. We get to spin the wheel. I'm so excited.
Yes. I know it's like your adrenaline, right? Not as much as the fire thing, but oh, I love this.
Oh, you've even got the sound. Look at you go.
Well, you got to have the sound with the will, right? So, okay. So who are you feel like you are most like?
Oh, wow. I think that, I say all the time, stop looking for heroes and be one. And we have a tendency to look for that. and I think we should look to ourselves for
Mhm.
that.
Right.
I think Keanu Reeves, if we look out there, somebody's famous. Ashton Kutcher, he does a lot. Gary Sinise. You know who
Mhm.
Gary is, right? He
Mhm.
played in Forrest Gump. He played Lieutenant
Yes.
Dan. Hey,
Yes.
Lieutenant Dan. That's my worst,
Right.
Tom Hanks. I don't think I'm anywhere close to Gary in terms of that, but I certainly love that spirit
Mhm.
because I believe that
Mhm.
if you help enough people get what they want in life, you'll always get what you want in life. And I learned that in AA. And so that person I'd want to
Mhm.
inspire to be is what I learned in AA in the preamble. And the reason I fell in
Mhm.
love with AA is because it says in the preamble, when anyone want the hand of AA to be there, and for that, I'm responsible.
Mhm.
So that's who I want to be, that person right there.
I love it. I love it. Again, Dave, thank you so much. Now, where can everybody reach you?
Oh, yeah, that's real simple, easy. But just
Yeah.
go to our website.
Okay.
It's all there. It's firewalkadventures.com. So Firewalk Adventures is one word. Adventures is spelled with an S. And then when you get there, everything's there. Get a hold of me, email address, my calendar's there if they want to talk. I will say that I've got the academy coming up in October. It's called the Dave Albin Firewalk Academy. We
Okay.
bring in 9 people at a time. That's it. We cut it off at 9. And that's where companies or individuals come to me and I teach them what I've learned over the last 3 decades of being in AA and in the personal development industry. But I teach them firewalking and glass walks and board breaks and arrow breaks and rebar bending and all these really phenomenal corporate team building experiences. And then they can go back and do it themselves. So, in fact, you know what, Michelle? I'll
Love
give
it.
any of your listeners, let me give you a code. The code will
Oh,
be, we'll give
okay.
them a substantial discount for listening today to your podcast. Use code
Right.
6828. That's 6828. And if they call and they go, hey, you know what? I think I want to do this. I'll give them a substantial
Mhm.
discount for having that code for being on your podcast with us today. Yeah,
Oh, that's
my pleasure.
awesome. All right, you heard it here. So you've been challenged. All right, everybody, thank you so much. And again, daily challenges you can conquer, it's not going to last forever. And I always want to say this quote one more time. Stop looking for heroes and be one. Okay? Because people are looking at you and you can be the role model
Absolutely.
for anybody. Be that
Absolutely.
hero. All
My
right. Thank
pleasure.
you,
Thanks,
Dave.
Michelle.
And
Take care,
goodbye, everybody.
everyone.
We'll see you next week. Thank you.